welcome back to my channel, Manga Hoarder. My name is Laura, and today I am doing a kind of combined manga book haul. This is really all of the books that I've bought over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. It's actually been quite a while. These are all books that I bought in person, so they're not things that I bought online. I went to a bookstore, bought some books, and I went to 2 different sort of charity sales that were happening here in the city, both of which are like offering thousands and thousands of books, but they were all secondhand. So this is mostly kind of a very random haul. These were not necessarily titles that I was looking for. I was just buying them mostly because they were cheap, and that is sort of how I collect manga, I guess. It's how my collection has been able to grow so much, because I do buy things on the very cheap and then slowly work at adding to my collection. So that's what I do. And both of these sales, they happen only once a year, and almost at the same time. So it really is, May is really an expensive month for me because I wait for this sale every year. So I might as well start off with the 2 new titles that I bought in store. These were just bought at Chapters. So the first one is My Boy Volume 2 by Hitomi Takano. I only ended up buying this because I had 1 in 3, and I needed to buy Volume 2 because I had missed it somehow. And then the other title that I picked up was Kino's Journey, The Beautiful World by Iruka Shiomiya. Original story by Keiichi Sigsawa, and original character design by Kohaku Kuroboshi. These are both actually vertical comic offerings, so they both are kind of a slender but kind of a wider trim, which are just sort of an unusual format. They don't quite fit with the rest of the manga that I have in my collection, but yeah, I enjoyed the first volume of My Boy. It is sort of about a relationship between a 20-something-year-old office worker and a 10-year-old boy, and this bond, they're both strangers, this bond that they form with each other, and it's quite sweet. At least the first volume was. And Kino's Journey, I believe, is about a young woman who's traveling on a sentient motorcycle, is that what I heard correctly, and is traveling around the world and just sort of experiencing the world. I have heard mixed things about this, particularly about the manga, and I've just been curious about it because it sounded like it had sort of an interesting premise, but we will see how it goes. Hopefully I'll have a chance to read it in the near future. So the first sale that I went to was a little bit smaller. It had a little bit less to offer, and I had never been to it before, so a friend of mine took me after work one day, unfortunately, there wasn't any manga at the sale. You know, I did immediately go in, scour, all the tables, and then ask, like, where's your comics? And there wasn't really a lot to choose from. So I will end up showing you what I ended up picking up. Some of them are kind of related, but the second sale that I ended up going to is actually the one where I picked up all of the manga. So first off, I got Jazz Up Your Japanese with Onomatopoeia for All Levels by Hiroku Fukuda. We actually have a copy of this, my sister does, but I really like the Kodansha Japanese language guides. I think they're quite good, and Onomatopoeia is actually really quite interesting in Japanese. It works quite a bit differently than I think it does in English, and so I've been wanting to have this because technically it was my sister's. So now I have my own copy. The next title I picked up is The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. I do have East of Eden. I haven't quite finished reading it, and this one is just as big. And I actually don't know the story. I have never read it. I've never seen the movie. But it was in great shape, and I thought I might as well pick up another title, see what all the fuss is about. I picked up this book, and it's really interesting, and I think I'm going to enjoy reading it, and hopefully it's sort of does what I hope it does. And this is What We See When We Read by Peter Mendelssohn. And it's kind of looks like it's a combination of illustration and text, and I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but it looks like it's an exploration of the idea of reading, and I'm really interested in that concept. Just the idea that some people have different ways of reading and understanding text and words and combinations of words, and that experience of what reading is sort of interesting. So hopefully this kind of does what I hope it does, or explores things in an interesting way. The next 3 are quite old looking books, and they're kind of junky, and I'll read through them, and if the text isn't worthwhile, I'll cut them up, because the pictures are really kind of more valuable probably at that point. But I picked up Japanese Art 110 full color illustrations. It doesn't look like there's any author on this. Sort of just like a coffee table style book from, I imagine, like the 60s or 70s. And then we've got Oriental Lacquer's 73 plates in full color. This one does have an author, Paul Hamlin, but it's covering kind of more of Asia. And then the last one was part of a series that I broke up because there was quite a lot in it. The Art of Japan, and the series was Art of the World, so they had lots of different countries represented. And, this one is not bad because there's actually a little bit more text. I'm not entirely sure that at this point in time that art history publications, particularly in a series like this, would have be very informative, or have any kind of depth to the writing, but there isn't a lot of art history of Japan in English, so anything that I can find, I scoop up. So I will read through those and have a look at them. I think they're more, like I said, more valuable probably from the images, and if worse comes to worse and there's no real value to them, then I'll probably just get rid of them. And as far as I'm concerned, value means information that's kind of worth keeping. And then the last thing that I picked up was the only comic that I actually saw there. Actually, I saw two comics. One was a rather explicit Japanese language yuri manga, so I wasn't really interested in that one. And the other one that I found was The Sculptor by Scott McCloud. So I haven't read this before, but I've heard good things. Scott McCloud wrote there's that comic history of how to read comics. I can't remember. That might be the title, which I have read, and this one I've heard really good things about. It's a pretty big one, but it's in really good shape and barely looks like it had been read, so I got it for like $3, I think. That's Canadian. From that other comic, though, that I mentioned, there was actually a little... I scooped out there's a little advertisement that was in it, which is this here, and it had mentioned that Reel was coming back, and that was the same day that the announcement seemed to have started showing up on Twitter, so I thought it was quite funny, because I was like, I have this thing, and I was excited, and I was about to share it, and then all of a sudden Twitter was going crazy with Reel is coming back. So yes, Reel is coming back. That's amazing. So excited about it. Was worth going there just to find that out, firsthand, or, before it started showing up on Twitter. And then we've got a huge haul from this other sale. I go to this sale every year. I go early so that I can kind of have my pick of titles to read or to buy. And I went by myself, so basically I cleared out everything that I could take that we didn't already own. And when I got home, I split it with my sister, so it went, straight down the line, 50-50. I'm not going to show you all of the books that I bought her, but I will show you a picture of my trunk. So this is all of the books that I picked up. There was quite a lot, but there's still lots, even, half the size of what this haul actually is, and I will show it to you. So the first manga that I picked up is actually Japanese language manga. It's the first 3 volumes of Yami no Matsue by Yoko Matsushita, or Matsushita Yoko. So this is actually Descendants of Darkness, and I ended up getting volumes 1, volume 2, and volume 3 just happened to be at the sale, so I picked it up. I got a couple of shoujo manga. So the first one here is Special A. This is by Maki Minami, which is the same author as Komomo Confiserie. I think that might be the only other title I have by her in the collection. Especially I got volume 1, volume 2, 3, and volume 4. I don't think this is a very long series. I don't remember it being very long, but I don't actually know much about it. I think it has to do with like student councils or something. There's a girl, and she's trying to get the best of a guy who also is her rival at school. So that looks like that's what that's about. So the next title is Planet Ladder. This is by Yuri Narishima. This, I think, is an isekai style manga from the 90s, which I didn't actually know was. It looks like she's transported into another world when a sorcerer appears in her bedroom, and now she is being called the princess, and she doesn't know why she's there, and it has something to do with tarot cards. So that's that. So I got volume 1, I got volume 2, and I also got 3 and 4. Again, a title that I don't think is very long, but it's certainly not complete in 4 volumes. So this one will be a while, but I have seen this one at different sales and things before, so I suspect it won't be hard to collect. I'm not sure. And then this title, when I first joined YouTube, was really making a big buzz. I think a lot of people were disappointed that it was out of print and were trying to get a hold of it, and I even had someone contact me and ask me to sign a petition to have it reprinted, which I'm not really sure that that's how things work, so I didn't sign that petition, but it was Future Diary by Sakai Esuno. I only got the first volume, but I think this might be like a horror title. I don't know it. I think it's quite popular. I think there was an anime going at the time, but as you know, I don't watch a lot of anime, so I'm out of the loop. The next one I got is Chaika the Coffin Princess, original story by Ichiro Sakaki, art by Shinta Sakayama. I don't really know what this is. It's like sort of a fantasy, shonen, possibly steampunk-ish series. That's all I can get from the first quick flip through. And then the next title is something I never expected to be collecting, and I probably won't collect it except for in secondhand sales, but it's been popular enough that I expect it shouldn't be too hard in the near future. This is Magi by Shinobu Otaka. I only got volume 5. That was all that was there at the sale, so it's kind of funny. I think you probably know what this is if you're watching my channel, but I think it might be a Aladdin and his lamp, you know, Sinbad retelling, 1001 Nights retelling. I don't really know. It's not a fairy tale or a folk tale that I'm particularly interested in. So the next title is a pretty new one. I don't know how long this series is. This is The 7-Year Princes of the 1,000-Year Labyrinth. And this is the story by Hattori Haruno and art by Aikawa Yu. I have read something by Aikawa Yu recently. I'm sure of it. It's a very familiar name, but I can't think of what it could be. Dark Edge? Oh, it is Dark Edge. Very good. I can see it across the room. That's good. I feel kind of proud of myself. I haven't read it. I just recently finished collecting it. So the 7 princes are collected, and they are put in this labyrinth. Apparently it'll take you, I don't know, it's called the 1,000-Year Labyrinth. Endless corridors, and they are have discovered that they are all sort of candidates to become the next emperor, something or other, etc. So I got volume 1 and volume 2. I don't know how long the series is. I can't imagine that it's super long. I haven't heard too much about it, but a lot of the idea of this, particularly the gathering of 7 characters together, is very familiar. It's a very common theme. So the next one is an old Bandai title. So this is Code Geass, and it's manga by Magico. Who's Magico? I feel like I've read something by Magico recently too. Anyway, I will put that up on the screen. I feel like it was like a blue thing. I've read something by Magico recently. Anyway, original story by Ichiro Okochi and Goro Taniguchi. Next is a ADV title. This one is Kid's Joker, Volume 1 by Maki Fujita. A girl dreams of becoming a police officer, and she is in high school. I don't know, could be fun, I guess. Sounds pretty corny, actually. The next one is another ADV title. This one is Figure 17, Tsubasa and Hikaru, author Genko Olm, illustrator Guy Nakahira. This one I really don't know. I've never heard about, haven't seen anything about it, and there's no write-up on the back, so it'll be interesting, but it looks like it's about children. Next up is sort of a I don't know, is this just a one-off, a one-shot? Doesn't look like it's a volume. This is Final Fantasy Type O by Takatoshi Shiozawa, and scenario by Hiroki Chiba, character design Tetsuya Nomura. Maybe if you play the game, this might be a little more interesting to you, but I don't know the game, and I don't know if it would follow the game at all. I really don't know anything about it. It was sort of like at the end, we were just sort of like, well, you take that one, I'll take this one. So we'll see at some point. I will read it. I also ended up getting, and this one is in pretty rough shape, so it probably won't make it into the collection. But it's PhD Fantasy Degree by Sun Hee Jun. Oh, this is a manhwa. Very much has a early 90s look to it. It's got a very angular, very stylized, sort of a fantasy title. This is a clamp title that I didn't have before, so that's cool, and it's actually in good shape, by Tokyo Pop. Miyuki-chan in Wonderland. Yeah, it's just a little short one, and it looks like it's a short little story. I think that this one was written and drawn by Mokona, and there's quite a bit of, like, art pages, color pages at the back. There's a lot of nudity, surprisingly. I was like, what can I show you? Maybe this one. The art style is you know, looks a lot like some of the older works. I would say a lot like Ray Earth is what it reminds me of. So the next title that I picked up is also, it's not in the best shape. It looks like it had been well loved, probably by a child, I would say. This is The Law of Ueki by Tsubasa Fukuchi. It looks like it's sort of that similar scenario that you get in shonen manga, where there's a bunch of people battling this one in order to become king, and in this one you get special powers, I think, before you battle. And in the case of this story, the kid in question, Kosuke Ueki, he has the ability to change trash into trees, and he also doesn't know he's a participant in this scenario. So I got Volume 1, Volume 2, and also Volume 3. Kind of sounds a little bit like Captain Planet, if you were lucky enough to get to watch that crazy series. I have another Viz title. This one is Fallen Vampire, or The Record of a Fallen Vampire. Story by Kyoshiro Daira, art by Yuri Kimura. Looks quite cute from the cover. It does have sort of, the characters have some kind of odd proportion. You can see her hands are bigger than her head seems to be. But could be interesting. So this is basically the story of a vampire, a king, I guess. He loses his kingdom and his queen is somehow sealed away, and now, thousands of years later, he is looking for his queen still, who is sealed. I imagine it possibly is this girl on the back. And on Volume 2, on the front, so it's quite a cute drawing. Yeah. So just the 2 volumes. I don't remember, like, I remember seeing this series, but I don't even know if it's a long one or not. I've got another one that's super beat up, but because I'm the one who already is collecting this sort of franchise, it's not even a series anymore. I'm the one who had to take it when we divided things up. That is Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist. This is Volume 1 by Kazuki Takahashi, and you can kind of see just sort of how beat up it is. It's a pretty small first volume. I have the regular, like, first Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think I have a little bit of Millennium World. So I have now Duelist Volume 1, and I also have Yu-Gi-Oh! R by Kazuki Takahashi, or at least concept, and story and art by Akira Ito. This is Volume 3. And it says card inside, but I imagine the card is now gone. Yeah. But this one is in better shape than Duelist. I don't know what the difference is between these series, and I think it's going to take, you know, an eternity to actually pick them all up. Another series that's going to take me forever, and also the books aren't in the best shape, but it's sort of understandable considering what it is Pokemon. So this one's Pokemon Diamond and Pearl Adventure. which I think I might have volume 1 of. This one's by Shigekatsu Ihara, volume 3. And I also got this one, I think is sort of a one-shot. This is Ginji's Rescue Team, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon by Makoto Mizobuchi. So this one says it's inspired by Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, which means it's not going to be very good, unfortunately. But yeah, so 2 more Pokemon volumes. Pokemon is a huge series with many spin-off series, just like Yu-Gi-Oh!, and it happens to be one of the things that's in my side of the collection, so I'm the one who has to collect them when we buy them. But I am certainly not on the lookout for Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Just if I see them at these secondhand sales and they cost $2, then I will buy them. I got a new volume of Inuyasha by Rumiko Takahashi. This is volume 17. So I have 1 through 10, which I have bought over many years, and now 17. It's in not bad shape, so happy enough to have it. But that one is a long series. I have this one in another edition, but I already also have it volume 1 in this edition. So now I have volume 2 of Rig Veda by Clamp. So this one's actually a pretty short series. It's available in 3 omnibus by Dark Horse. I think it's Dark Horse has it. And then it's got to be around 8-ish volumes in Tokyo Pop's edition. So I am picking these ones up as well, but again, I'm not sort of out hunting for them. They just are going to happen as they happen. I picked up 2 like color comics or screen cap comics, manga, cine manga, whatever you want to call them, of Trigun. So I got Trigun Volume 1 and Volume 2, and these are literally just screen caps from the anime. So there's a couple of titles released like this. I don't know that it happens quite as often these days, but certainly it was happening a lot more at the time, and these ones were published from Dark Horse, and they're calling them on the spine here anime manga. Another series I was not expecting to collect, but again in another spin-off title. This one is the Attack on Titan No Regrets series. I am collecting the like main series Attack on Titan in the Colossal editions, but and I'm not going to be buying these ones new, but if I happen to see them at sales again, I will pick them up. So this one is art by Hikaru Sugura, story by Gun Snark, or Nitro Plus, and then this is created by Hajime Isayama. So just sort of a spin-off series. I don't know if this is any good. I haven't really heard anything. I'm not really super concerned about it, but you know, when I actually get to reading Attack on Titan a little bit further, then I'll start looking at reading some of these other things, but I'm not going to be intentionally collecting them. And then I ended up getting the full series of something that I have multiple editions of, but why not have yet another edition, especially since this one's probably the nicest edition, and that is Ray Earth. So I got Volume 1 and Volume 2 of the Omnibus from Dark Horse. These are both by Clamp. I have these in multiple editions, and so this is the third full edition that I have, but they look quite nice, and they're very cute, and it's a series that I love, and it's incredibly nostalgic. This one has a little bit of a broken spine, so that's a little bit tragic, but I probably would, you know, I might look at the translation and compare it, and this one actually has a bit of color art in it, which is pretty nice. But I probably would read it in the smaller editions just because they are a little more comfortable, but publishing looks pretty good. They cost me $2 each, so like really how would I refuse anyway? This one again is a sort of another edition of something that I already have, and that happens to be Paradise Kiss by Ayazawa. I bought Volume 1 and 2 in this particular edition, which is a sort of like gray spine. And as you can see, I have it already from Tokyo Pop, but it has a purple spine. And so I just wanted to pick up the gray spine. I actually have 1 and 5 in the purple spine and 2, 3, 4 in the gray spine. So I was kind of hoping that if I collect them, I could collect them all in the same spine, you know, that spine consistency that people like, except for that I would keep both editions because I like it. Next up is not a manga, but it is an art book, and that is the all color but the black Art of Bleach by Tite Kubo. So it's just a, you know, just a regular old art book, but since it was very cheap and it was there with the rest of them, this is another thing that I don't really collect. I don't really collect art books. I have a couple now, but they're just sort of happen naturally. This one's in really good shape, and the art in it is not too bad. So, you know, I can appreciate having a little art book if it's going to cost me $2. I bought 2 nonfiction books. The first one is Anime from Akira to Howl's Moving Castle by Susan Napier. This was published in 2005, and I read it back in 2005. And I was actually recently looking for this. It was up on some sale site, but it was still a little too expensive. So $2 is great. It's in good shape. I would like to reread it, but I also know that, you know, something that was published like 15 years ago, yeah, just about 15 years ago, the content's going to be dated, so I didn't really want to spend a lot of money on it, so I'm glad, you know, $2, great. I also actually have this particular title, but I had a library copy of it, so it's in pretty gross shape, and this one is in perfect shape. And that is the Anime Explosion, the What, Why, and Wow, Japanese animation by Patrick Drazen. Again, a title that I have read, but I've read many years ago. And I'm glad to be able to replace the copy that I have. This one was actually published in, let's see, this one is copyright 2003, but it might have been published a little bit later in like 2007. So, you know, it's at least 10 years old, but it's in good shape, and I'll look forward to rereading it. It's funny to go back and read those titles because they are dated, and they also are dated to whatever was popular at the time, and so they're talking about series that were popular at the time or airing at the time, and now I imagine that a new reader who gets into these series might even not know what those series are, which is quite funny to me. I think that's funny, but those are the titles and the series and the anime that I was watching back when I was watching more anime. Then the last thing that I picked up, and I left it to last because it was the best thing that I picked up, and I'm pretty excited about it. I got it for super cheap. It completes my collection except for the very last volume of the series that's been published, and that is Wandering Sun. So I ended up getting, picking up volume 1 as well, but that's a duplicate. So I got volume 2. This is by Shimura Takako. So I got volume 2, volume 3, and volume 4, and this is in perfect condition. Does it feel like it's been read? It doesn't feel like it's been read. It's still creaking as I open it. So this is in really good shape, and I ended up I already have volume 1, and then the next volume that I have is 5, so this literally fills in the gap that I needed, and, you know, these were more expensive than the other books there. All of the other books were considered children's books, which were $2 each, and then these ones had a special label on them, but they were $4. They were $4 Canadian. That's all, and, you know, they're beautiful, hardcover, out of print. People are selling them for way too much online, and this just sort of continues to reaffirm my belief that I don't need to pay more than cover price. If I wait long enough, the books will just come to me, and so this was really great. I was super excited about this. So now I only need the last volume, which I think is volume 8, because I have now 1 through 7. Which is fantastic. So I'm really, really pleased about that. So that's everything that I ended up picking up over the last couple of weeks. You know, I said before, you know, I've said at the beginning of the year, I've said multiple times that I'm working on a tight budget this year, and I'm, you know, reducing how much I spend this year. You know, I bought a lot of manga today, or I'm hauling a lot today, but I didn't spend that much. You know, most of these books were $2. Overall, I haven't really pushed my budget too hard. I do have one haul that's coming up which actually exceeded my budget, and so now kind of going forward after that haul, I'm going to have to really kind of be tight with my money. So I am going to be trying to probably not spend a whole lot in the summer, and then you'll see a little bit more hauls kind of coming up later in the year, but I just have to do that in order to like regain some funds for that particular area. I don't have any money to spend on comics right now, so I can't buy any comics, and I'd like to have money in there in case that there is something that comes up like this next haul that I'm going to share with you. So that probably will show up sometime next month, in a couple of weeks, when it eventually does show up at my door. So at any rate, I'm really happy with this. There's some new things to read. Most of it are, you know, volume ones, which means I can, you know, start a series or at least try out a series, discover new authors. I was really pleased to get that, I can't remember what it was, something in Wonderland, Miyuki in Wonderland or something, by Clamp, because I didn't know of that title, and I certainly wasn't aware of it. And I'm really excited about the Wandering Sun title because that really fills in a gap that makes it possible to actually read the series, so that's really wonderful too. So it's been a good haul. It was a very nice cheap haul. I love cheap hauls, and lots of books just makes me feel really good. So I had fun shopping at various places. I hope you found it interesting to see a bunch of titles that you may never have seen before. I certainly haven't seen them before, so that was interesting to me. If you've read any of these titles, I'd love to know what your thoughts are and which titles you think that I should be reading right away rather than waiting until, you know, I pick them up at some later point. Let me know that down below. Anyway, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.